$700,000. There's a check for that amount in my back pocket right now. I think it's burning a hole in the fabric, but I'm too scared to touch it. Sometimes I look at my girlfriend Chelsea and try to pinpoint the exact moment when we crossed the line. Outwardly, she looks the same. Same smile, same laugh, same warm hands. But if you look into her eyes, there's nothing there anymore. Just emptiness, something dead, mechanical, like a clockwork doll that only pretends to be alive. We weren't looking for trouble. We were just young, in love, and desperately in need of money. Life from 9 to 5 wasn't for us. We wanted freedom. We wanted thrills. And it was that desire that led us to that phone call. A call that divided our lives into before and after. If I had known then what I know now, I would have smashed my phone against the wall. But back then, I thought we had hit the jackpot. It all started long before that Friday. I've always been the one looking for strange jobs, Craigslist, shady forums. I quickly realized that people are willing to pay big bucks for things they don't want documented. That's how I met Chelsea. We were hired for the same strange job. A guy named Frank paid us to pretend to be a screaming, dysfunctional couple at a stranger's child's birthday party. We yelled, tore our clothes, and an hour later sat on the curb, smoking and laughing like maniacs. That's when I realized she was just like me. She didn't just want money. She wanted experience, danger, the feeling of living in a movie. We started living together. Everything was perfect. Until that quiet Friday evening. I was home alone. The phone rang. The number wasn't displayed. I picked up the phone expecting another Frank, but instead, I heard a dry, mechanical voice. This call may be recorded for quality assurance purposes. Please state your full name and date of birth. I froze, holding a dirty rag in my hand. Every instinct told me to hang up, but I didn't. Julian Rains, I said. May 14th, 1999. A short beep, and then a polite, soft, human voice came through the receiver. Hello, Mr. Rains. I hear you're looking for a job that requires a special kind of courage. When Chelsea came home later that day, I was sitting on the couch waiting for her. She came up behind me, cupped my face in her hands, and kissed me gently on the top of my head. Hi, I said, trying to sound calm. How's work? She exhaled heavily and leaned over the back of the couch, pressing the cushions with her weight. It's brutal, she said, but I got the strangest voice message. We didn't have to guess. We both knew. The car arrived in an hour. Long, black, tinted windows. The driver didn't say a word. He just drove. Chelsea and I sat in the back, holding hands so tightly that my knuckles turned white. When the car finally stopped, my heart skipped a beat. We were in front of a dilapidated warehouse. Broken windows, graffiti, weeds growing through the concrete. It looked like a place where people came to die. But then the car door opened, and amid the dirt and decay stood a man in a flawless $1,000 suit. He was tall and thin, with perfectly slicked back hair that looked like plastic. He flashed a sophisticated, predatory smile. Mr. and Mrs. Rains? Chelsea blinked, suddenly shy. We're not married. Oh, I'm sorry. He tapped his forehead. And your last name, miss? Sutherland. Mrs. Sutherland, of course. He shook her hand, then mine. His handshake was firm, too firm. I'm Malcolm Kessler. Call me Kessler. Shall we go inside? We followed him, and the moment we crossed the threshold, my brain shut down. The decay was a lie, a shell. Inside, everything was immaculately clean. Dazzling white corridors stretched endlessly. Men and women in neat lab coats passed us, carrying tablets and coffee, talking in quiet, serious voices. Chelsea's eyes widened. This is, she whispered. This is a hospital? Kessler didn't turn around. Not exactly, although we do have the equipment. He smiled crookedly at us, as if he knew a joke we hadn't gotten yet. He led us into a cold, steel-walled room. A table, 4 chairs, a stack of documents as thick as a novel. We sat down. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, giving me a headache. Kessler folded his hands on the table, looking like a friendly consultant. This, he said quietly, looking at me and then at Chelsea. Is OEM. Does either of you know what that means? We shook our heads. It means Office of Enhanced Methods. I blinked, trying to comprehend the words. What exactly does that mean? We asked. Kessler leaned back in his chair. He looked relaxed, unforced, as if we were discussing the weather. Simply put, Mr. Rhines, we're researching methods of torture. The room fell silent. We test them. We see which methods are effective, which are ineffective, and which need adjustment. I felt the blood drain from my face. I turned to Chelsea. She was looking at me, her eyes wide with panic. Is this... Her voice trembled. Is this a government operation? Kessler laughed quietly and dryly. You could say that. Then why us? I asked, finally looking away from her and looking at him. Deep down, I already knew the answer. He exhaled and leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. His features were sharp, but his expression was warm, skillful. Then I realized he must have practiced this expression thousands of times in front of the mirror. I'll be honest, he lowered his voice. We need volunteers, and that's easier said than done. People aren't lining up for this kind of job, so we're looking for people who operate outside the system, people who are willing to do the dirty work, and in exchange, we pay very well. I scanned his face, looking for signs of deception. I found none. Next to me, Chelsea was flipping through documents, her brow furrowed. How much are we talking about? I asked. No one else was going to do it. Kessler didn't smile. He didn't laugh. Are you two planning to get married? I blushed. The truth was, I had bought a wedding ring a month ago. I was just waiting for a time when the wedding wouldn't bankrupt us. Yes, I said slowly. Eventually. Have you looked at wedding hall prices lately? Kessler raised his eyebrows, feigning sympathy. What about the honeymoon, children, education, retirement? Without giving me a chance to respond, he reached across the table. He took my hand in one and Chelsea's in the other. The room suddenly seemed smaller. The air became thick. I won't sugarcoat it, he said flatly. Times are tough, but I can guarantee that you'll never have to worry about money again. Then he stood up and left. Click. I thought I heard the door close behind him, but I was so nervous I couldn't be sure. We sat in silence. This is too much, Chelsea whispered, running her fingers through her hair. This place is crazy. I picked up the documents. The phrases jumped out at me like warning signs. Non-disclosure agreement, release of liability, medical supervision. I put the documents down and took her hand. It's a life-changing amount of money, Chelsea, and he didn't look like he was bluffing. She laughed nervously. Does that make us war criminals or something? I shrugged. She rubbed her face, her nervous tick. I tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and tried to smile. She smiled back, but her eyes were filled with horror. An unspoken question hung between us. If the pay is that high, how hard is the job? But even then, there was tension in the room. This was what we did. We pursued the strange. Chelsea liked it. I think from the moment we arrived, I knew she would say yes. When Kessler returned, I stood up. I pushed my chair back and wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans. What kind of torture are we talking about? His smile slowly spread across his face. I can show you right now, if you're up for it. He led us down the hall to another room. At first glance, it looked the same. Sterile, metallic, cold. But then I saw the differences. Cameras mounted high on the walls, pointing down like the eyes of a predator. And the chairs, they were heavier, bolted to the floor, with thick leather straps for the wrists and ankles. My stomach lurched. Everything that happens here stays here, Kessler said calmly, gesturing for us to sit down. Chelsea and I exchanged frightened glances. We sat down. We don't cause permanent damage. Medical staff are always on hand. Almost on cue, a man in a lab coat rushed in, pushing a metal cart. Without a word, he grabbed my wrist and tied me to a chair. Then Chelsea. He left our legs free, which somehow made the situation worse. Participation is completely voluntary, Kessler continued. He spoke as if he were selling us a timeshare. Nothing happens without consent. You can leave whenever you want. Click. The doctor put on latex gloves. My throat tightened. What is he going to do? I asked. Kessler nodded to the doctor. The man took a syringe, examined the needle, and drew a clear liquid from a glass ampule. It's just a sample, Kessler said. We've been refining it. The test results have been very favorable. I wondered what favorable meant in a place like this. Effective pain? Maximum trauma? We usually hook you up to brain sensors, he added, but today it will be simpler. The silent doctor approached Chelsea. She shifted in her chair, looking around. He rubbed her arm with alcohol, looking for a vein. I tried to smile at her, tried to reassure her. Imagine, Kessler said casually, it's like electric current in liquid form. Before we could scream, the needle entered Chelsea's arm. The plunger went down. Her body froze instantly. Her eyes widened and became dead. Her mouth opened as if she had forgotten how to breathe. For a split second, she froze. Then, her muscles betrayed her. She began to twitch violently, her limbs thrashing against the straps. When she screamed, it was a wet, broken cry, not a human sound. Panic hit my chest. I barely felt the needle enter my arm, and then the pain came. It was like fire running through my veins, as if my blood had turned to blades. My vision blurred. I really thought, this is it. I'm dying. We didn't go back there for several months. Kessler told us to take a vacation. As we were leaving, he pressed a thick wad of cash into my hand. It was heavy as a rock, but he wasn't lying. The pain didn't last long. It felt like hours, but they said it was only minutes. I expected to feel weak, broken, humiliated. Instead, the pain was gone. I woke up like never before. As soon as we stepped outside, Chelsea smiled at me with wild eyes. That was incredible, she said. We tried to resist. Returning seemed like crossing a line. It seemed wrong, dystopian. I remember the pain clearly, the way the needle pierced me. But in the end, none of us could stay away. The pay was insane. It was life-changing. At first, we kept it a secret from each other, like a secret romance. She went to work. I went to the warehouse. They gave me injections. They made me eat things that made me sick. They threw me around. They beat me. I came home bruised and exhausted. Chelsea started coming home late too. She was distant. She was restless. One night at 3 a.m., I stopped pretending. She came in, rubbing her eyes, looking broken. I was sitting on the couch, waiting. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes widened. I chuckled quietly. Are you cheating on me? She exhaled and fell onto the couch next to me. Not exactly. I pulled her toward me. She snuggled up to me as if everything was normal. Let's stop hiding, I whispered. From now on, we'll do this together. No more secrets. I waited for her response. Instead, I felt her breathing slow down. She fell asleep instantly. The following weekend, we returned together. Kessler met us at the door, smiling, patting us on the back like old drinking buddies. Good to see you. You both did a great job. Chelsea nudged me and smiled. I laughed. Strangely, I felt proud. I've got something new planned, Kessler said, leading us down the hallway. Since you're both here. My smile faded. My stomach clenched. What's new? I asked. He waved his hand and led us into the room. The same metal chairs, the same loose straps. But there was already a doctor there. He was holding a strange strap, like a thick bandage with wires. This time, said Kessler, we want to explore something more psychological. I stopped. They both looked at me. Psychological? I repeated. My head instantly filled with images from every horror movie I had ever seen. Physical pain was one thing, but playing with someone's mind? That seemed fragile, dangerous. Kessler moved closer, placing his hands on my shoulders, calm, soothing. Think about it, Mr. Rains. It's a very short test. 30 seconds. We're in control. He lowered his voice. 30 seconds, in exchange for enough money to buy a car. Fear filled my heart again. If it was safe, why was it worth more than anything we'd done before? Come on, Jules, Chelsea said, smiling at me. She didn't look scared. That was the only reason I nodded. The doctor put a metal band around my head. The cold steel pressed against my forehead. We sat down. Chelsea took my hand. I squeezed hers in response. This time, we weren't restrained. I hardly noticed, until it was too late. Next, the doctor put the headband on Chelsea. She made a silly face at me. I almost laughed. Ready? Kessler asked. He nodded to the doctor. The moment the doctor touched the control panel, Chelsea screamed, instantly, without warning, without a hint. The scream tore through the room, sharp, piercing. It felt like it was tearing my skull apart. It was unlike anything I had ever heard before, unlike any scream I had ever heard. It grew louder and louder, more and more piercing, until I thought my eardrums were about to burst. It wasn't just pain, it was despair. It was more than suffering, more than human. I imagined hell. I imagined souls being dragged into eternal torment. That's what it sounded like. She squeezed my hand. I felt my bones tense up. Chelsea! Chelsea, look at me! I jumped up, trying to shake her. She didn't let go. Her eyes were wide open, fixed on me, but empty, as if she were looking through my body. Tears streamed down her face. I turned around. The doctor was frantically typing on the keyboard. Kessler stood motionless. His face was shocked. Do something! I shouted. Stop! Now! Chelsea began to choke. Wet, choppy sounds came from her throat. Saliva dripped from her mouth. I couldn't wait any longer. I grabbed the bandage and ripped it off her head. She instantly lost consciousness. Her hand slipped from mine. Silence. Kessler shouted an order. The doctor ran out of the room. Chelsea! I fell to my knees, my hands shaking. Honey, are you okay? Please say something. She didn't move. For a terrifying second, I thought she was dead. I checked her pulse, and then her head turned toward me. She wasn't screaming anymore, but her eyes were still different. Empty. Lifeless. They weren't her eyes anymore. Her mouth opened. A thin, whispering sound came out. It was as if she had forgotten how to speak. I leaned closer, forcing myself to smile through the horror. What is it, my love? Please, she whispered, dragging out the word as if it hurt. No more. My blood froze in my veins. I cupped her face, my fingers slippery with her tears. It's over. My voice trembled. It's over. Nothing more. I promise. She looked through me. Whatever was behind those eyes, it wasn't her anymore. Her body jerked. A sharp, ugly twitch. Just kill me, she whispered. I turned to Kessler. He looked as confused as I did. His composure was finally gone. He adjusted his tie with trembling fingers. Our eyes met. And in that moment, we both realized the same thing. Something had gone wrong. Terribly wrong. And he had no idea how to fix it. The next few hours turned into a nightmare. Doctors filled the room. Chelsea was taken away on a stretcher. I ran after them, begging them to tell me where they were taking her, begging them to let me go with her. No one answered. I was left alone in that cold, white room. Her scream echoed in my head over and over. I cried until my throat hurt. I yelled at the cameras. I banged my head against the metal table until stars flashed before my eyes. Someone came in to bandage my arm, but no one wanted to talk to me. Time lost all meaning. Minutes felt like days. When the door finally opened and Kessler walked in, there was no relief. I just felt empty. "Where is she?" I croaked. "Is she alive?" He didn't answer right away. He sat down. His face was neutral again, but his skin was pale. He slid an envelope across the table. "Miss Sutherland is waiting outside," he said in an even voice. "She is physically unharmed. Her condition is stable." I couldn't hold back my tears. I hid my face in my hands. Kessler cleared his throat. "Take this envelope," he said. "Inside is a check for $700,000. The driver will take you to the hospital to have your arm treated. We will cover all expenses." He leaned in slightly. "After that, you will go home, and you will not return. Do you understand?" I raised my head. I nodded. Anger boiled deep inside me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to kill him. But I was exhausted. Broken. I just wanted Chelsea. I just wanted to leave. "We deeply regret today's incident," Kessler said. His mechanical politeness gave me the creeps. I grabbed the envelope, shoved it in my pocket, and stood up. Chelsea was waiting outside. Just as he said, she saw me and smiled. I pulled her toward me, held her close, pressed my lips to her neck, desperate to feel her pulse. "Thank God," I whispered. "You're okay." "Hey," she said quietly, pulling away. She wiped a tear from my cheek. "I'm more than okay, Jules. It was incredible." I burst out laughing, sharp, involuntary. "You're completely crazy," I said. She smiled. "You like it." They took us to the hospital. My arm was broken in 3 places. While the doctors were putting a heavy cast on it, Chelsea sat next to me and smiled. The whole time. She just smiled. Every time I looked at her, I felt a cold sensation in my stomach. She didn't seem shocked. She didn't seem traumatized. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling. My broken arm throbbed against my chest. The only thing that kept me grounded was the warmth of Chelsea's back pressed against my arm. Something was wrong with the room. It was too quiet. Too dark. "Chelsea?" I whispered. "Are you awake?" There was no answer. She wasn't snoring. But I heard something else. A steady, heavy rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. I exhaled slowly. "How did this happen?" I whispered into the darkness. "When did this happen?" I knew she wouldn't answer. I just needed to hear a human voice. Thump, thump. She turned over in her sleep. The sound quickened. And then I understood. Why could I hear her heartbeat? And why was it so loud? I propped myself up on my elbow, ran my fingers through her hair. "Hey," I whispered. "Are you okay?" There was no answer. Thump, thump, thump. A cold fear came over me. Real fear. The kind children feel in the dark when they know someone is watching them. I had to see her face. I had to make sure she was alive, that she was still herself. I reached out my hand, gently turned her toward me. Her eyes were wide open and red. My heart was in my throat, because I realized that the sound I heard wasn't her heartbeat. It was her gasping for air. Her throat was clicking as it opened and closed. Quickly, she was swallowing and breathing heavily in the darkness, as if she were about to vomit. Click, 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 click. I shook her hard. "Chelsea!" She flinched. She took a deep breath. She blinked at me as if she had awakened from a deep, peaceful sleep. She rubbed her eyes. "Julian?" Her voice was hoarse, dry, but normal. I turned on the lamp, hyperventilating. "What happened?" she asked. I shook my head. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even look at her. She hugged me, calmed me down, stroked my hair. "You were..." My voice trembled. "Shh," she whispered. "It's okay, Jules. I'm fine. It was just a nightmare." But I knew better. It wasn't a dream. Not for a second. After that night, my girlfriend changed. Something inside her changed. And it never went back. She tried. I'll give her that. She went to work. She hung out with friends. She watched TV with me, laughing at the right moments. But it felt like she was pretending. like her body was here, but the rest of her was somewhere else entirely. She hardly slept, and when she did, it wasn't right. More than once I caught her lying motionless, her eyes wide open, staring into space, just like that first night. Once I asked her what she dreamed about. She was silent for a long time. Then she looked at me. "Do you know how meat trembles when it's fresh?" she asked. "How the muscles are still alive, even though the animal is already dead?" She smiled and ruffled my hair. "That's what it looks like behind my eyelids," she whispered. The worst thing was not that she was acting strangely. The worst thing was that she was acting normal. She told me she felt fine. She kissed me the same way. She joked, and her jokes almost hit the mark, but never quite. I couldn't take it anymore after about a month. I came home late. I had a few drinks. The house was dark, quiet, calm. The moment I walked in, I was overcome with fear. It didn't make sense, but I felt it. Like someone was hiding somewhere nearby. Everything seemed wrong. Not messy, just wrong. "Chelsea?" I called, taking off my raincoat. "Are you awake, honey?" There was no answer. I was already heading for the stairs when I saw her. She was standing in the hallway, peeking around the corner. Only her eyes were visible in the darkness, wide open, fixed on me, but completely empty. Then she screamed. It was even worse because I couldn't see her mouth. The sound was short, stifled, like an animal breathing in panic. "Hoo-oo! Hoo-oo!" Each scream hit me like a punch in the stomach. My body made the decision for me. I turned around. I walked straight out the door and closed it behind me. I didn't stop until I reached the other side of the street. Then I looked back. She was standing by the window of our bedroom. The light was shining behind her. Her silhouette was clearly visible on the glass. I saw her throw her head forward. She hit her face against the window. Bang, then again. Bang, then again. Something dark flashed across the glass. The paramedics had to restrain her. I stood and watched as they dragged her away, and she begged them to kill her. I tried to call the company. Original Experience Management. The number was disconnected. I drove to the warehouse. There was nothing there. Just an empty, abandoned building. No laboratories. No Kessler. Just dust. When I picked her up from the hospital, she seemed normal again. Calm. Smiling. The only evidence that anything had happened were the ugly stitches on her forehead. That day, it all really began. That day, I finally broke down. "Honey?" I turned my head sharply toward her voice. She was looking out the car window, calm, smiling. "What was that?" I asked. She looked at me, her smile widening. "Nothing, Julian. I didn't say anything." I turned away. I told myself I was exhausted, that I was imagining things, that my mind was finally breaking. Then, I heard it again. Not from the seat next to me, from somewhere else. Somewhere above me. "Julian, open your eyes, my love. It's okay. God, Kessler, take that thing off him. I think he's had enough." Several weeks have passed. We're home. We're safe. At least, that's what Chelsea keeps telling me. I'm trying to believe her. I know it was all in my head. I know it was probably the result of that device affecting my brain. But it felt real. More real than this. And I'm terrified. I'm afraid that one day I'll wake up in that room again, in that chair again, and if that happens, I don't think I'll ever come back.